This serial killer drew portraits of his victims before killing them, which led to him being nicknamed the Doodler. And he was never caught, so he is still out there somewhere today. San Francisco, California in the 1970s was one of the more safer and accepting places for people in the LGBTQ plus community. But that doesn't mean that it was completely safe or accepting. It was still the 1970s in the United States. Being gay was actually still illegal in America and wasn't even completely decriminalized until 2007. But compared to the rest of the country, San Francisco is definitely seen more as a safe haven. So in the 1960s and 1970s, it saw a large wave of gay men moving into the area. And then these young men started going missing and started being murdered. The Doodler would go to gay bars where he would find his victims. Witnesses claim that they saw him drawing portraits of his intended victims on cocktail napkins in the bar, and he would use these drawings as a way to approach his victim and kind of flirt with them. But other witnesses say that he did not draw portraits of his victims, and he actually would just draw like doodles of animals. So this detail is pretty up in the air. And then the Doodler and his victim would leave the bar together, and his victim would later be found beaten and stabbed to death in a park or by the water. Gerald Kavanaugh was the first victim found, and he was found stabbed 17 times. And then an extremely popular drag performer in the area named Jay Stevens was found stabbed 3 times. And then Klaus Kreisman, who was actually from Germany and he was a married father, was found stabbed 15 times and his throat was cut. It was after this third victim that the investigators started to link all of these murders together, realizing that they now had a serial killer in their area. But unfortunately, because of the discrimination at the time, a lot of the police actually did not care about finding this killer because it was believed that the victims were either openly gay or closeted. And then 2 more victims were found, Frederick Capen and Harold Goldberg. There were a group of investigators that actually really did care, and they had 2 theories about who their serial killer was. They believed that their killer, the Doodler, was either a man that really hated gay people, or he was a gay man that was struggling with his sexuality. There were also quite a few attempted murders done by the Doodler, so there are survivors and witnesses. And 3 of these men have not had their identities released to the public because they did not want the public to know about their sexuality. One of these men was an American diplomat. The second one was a very well-known actor. And the third man was apparently so well-known and his job was so specific that even releasing his job title would be enough for people to identify him. These witnesses did not want to come forward publicly, which was their right, but the investigators do know these people's identities, and these 3 witnesses helped put together a composite sketch of what the Doodler serial killer looks like. Police started getting a lot of tips, but 2 tips that came in were pointing fingers at the exact same man. And one of these tips actually came from a therapist that claimed that their patient confessed to being the killer. And this man looked exactly like the composite sketch, so he was brought in for questioning. His identity has also not been released to the public. He admitted to the police that he was struggling and questioning his own identity and sexuality, but he denied being the killer. But for reasons that we do not know, we do not have all of the facts. The investigators have kept a lot of the information close to their chest. Investigators believe that they are certain that this man is their serial killer. I also saw it reported that those 3 witnesses I told you about a second ago were also able to pick him out of a photo lineup. So the police were actually planning to arrest this man and bring him to trial for being a serial killer. But those 3 witnesses that I told you about that do not have their identities released to the public decided that they did not want to testify because they were so nervous about being outed as gay men during the 1970s. So no charges were ever brought up against this man, which is definitely frustrating because it seems like they know that this man is guilty, but they can't do anything about it. It has been 50 years, and today this case is cold, but is definitely not closed, and that same suspect is still a person of interest today. Turns out, after being questioned by the police, that suspect left San Francisco, and then the killings just stopped all at the same time. They believe that it's very possible that he went somewhere else and kept on killing. They've also released a composite sketch of what they believe that this man looks like today. There is also a large cash reward for information that leads to an arrest in this case. I really believe that if this case happened today, it would have been solved, but for so many very different, complicated reasons, it couldn't be solved, which is extremely frustrating. Please let me know all of your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments. But while you're there, please always remember to be respectful. This is a serial killer, so there are many victims and many family members of these victims that are affected by this case. The investigators actually believe that they're able to link the doodler to even more unsolved murders other than the confirmed 5 victims that we already have. So just please always remember to be respectful. And while you're in the comments, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that suggested that we cover this case today, and I'll see you guys all next time in my next video. Please be a good person to your fellow person.